Hello and welcome to Kind of Filtered, my weird audio-visual journal podcast thing where I sit down and talk about a bunch of random-ass topics and my thoughts and feelings and things going on in the world and in my life for a little bit of time. But then I make sure that all those thoughts and feelings go through the sieve a little bit because I can't let you know everything about me because I must retain some form of mystery. Otherwise, you'll get bored of me. Especially the people who know me. Can't let you know everything. Otherwise, what's the fun of that? And what are we going to talk about? Gotta think about that. But now that I've weeded out all the people who have no interest in watching a long video, no attention span for that, with my long ass intro. Now it's just the people who can handle some big boy topics or big girl topics or whatever else you are topics. We can get straight into it. And people who actually want to hear what I have to say for some godforsaken reason. I don't know why. But alas, you're here. So today we're going to be talking about things relating to improving oneself. I don't want to say self-improvement because for a variety of reasons, this included, self-improvement has got some negative connotations attached to it, unfortunately. So we're not going to use that word. Let's pretend like I didn't say that, and we're not going to say that anymore. We need to find a new word. We need to find like a new shorter term. We'll just say improving oneself. That works. Anyways, that works. But I have been interested and kind of got into that in an active way. Whenever someone says like, I've gone into self-improvement, it's like, isn't everyone just trying to improve themselves technically, right? Like, it's not really a unique thing, right? But I guess like actively engaging in trying to improve myself. I'd say I've been trying to do that for the last like 2-3 years, maybe longer. Oh, it's been like 4 years now. Jesus Christ, I'm getting old. But yeah, for the last like 4 years or so, I've been actually actively trying to improve myself in various ways because I accepted, as you should also accept, that I am flawed in many ways. And I also came to accept that with many of those things, I have some level and some degree of control over fixing them and making them better. So I was like, fuck it. Why don't we do that? Let's do that. Sounds lit. I can take the problems I have and make them less of a problem. And then the guy selling it to me forgot to tell me that it takes a really long time and a lot of hard work. But here we are. And but getting into that and being kind of interested in like improving oneself and stuff the last few years has taught me. I've learned a lot of lessons because I think a lot of people get into the act of improving oneself, and I think there's a lot of expectations that people don't set correctly. And I think this is part of the reason why it gets a bad rap. I'll probably do a whole video on the problems I have with self-improvement. We're going to use the word. I know we made it a no word, but we're going to use it with self-improvement. And what is I like about it, what is I dislike about it, because there's tons of things going on. But I think part of the problem is expectations. And I think that's partially due to, I guess, the human brain's lack of ability to engage in serious long-term thinking, alongside with how I think stuff like self-improvement is portrayed. I think a lot of people have this belief, and you've seen it a million times. I'm not saying anything new here, but when the fuck ever am I? But you've seen it a million times. You know, the old stereotypical graph where it's like, what people think progress looks like, ooh, and then what progress actually looks like, oh, you know, that fucking thing. I'm sure you've seen that a million times. If you haven't, but it's basically just kind of this idea where people think getting better or improving at something is just kind of a straight line of progress, but it's kind of not. It's just like a bunch of dots, and you just hope to God that there's a positive correlation. I realize that on camera this probably reads wrong, so maybe I have to go this way. I don't know. We'll see in post. Maybe this way reads better than this way. You get the point. But yeah, I think a lot of people, have this assumption that progress just kind of works in a straight line and just keep going up. And And as you kind of get into it, and as you get older, as you improve at more things, as you actually get good at some things as well, because I think that's part of the thing that helps you understand that is actually getting somewhat competent at something and then assessing how you got competent at it and growing up and, and constantly engaging in that. But once you do that, you realize shit's the furthest thing away from a straight line, you know what I mean? Like, progress is not in any ways a straight line. Like, no way. The amount of times I feel like I'm working towards something for months and months on end, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm going backwards right now. I keep doing this thing, but I'm pretty sure I'm going backwards. Basically, what that kind of all over the fucking place process incurs in is what I like to call the awkward middle years. This is a phrase that I coined very recently because look at me, I'm always dropping new knowledge, revolutionizing the language of English. I'm going to be writing fucking journals, scientific journals in no time. But the term I coined, basically a phrase I've coined, which is the awkward middle years. And the concept, as you may imagine, I want you to all think back, and this may be, for some people, this may actually be really easy because you may be really within that, because I know some people watch my videos are in the younger stages of life. So this might actually be very easy for you to imagine, or it might actually be harder because you're in it. But people my age or older, think back to when you first start entering puberty, start entering those fateful high school years. Yeah, yeah, there you go. So yeah, you're thinking about it now, aren't you? Think about it. I want you to really reminisce. Close your eyes, get deep, and I want you to imagine. I want you to think back to those teenage years. I want you to visualize, being in those weird, awkward high school years when puberty is just starting to go through. And, you're watching all these television shows, you have all your friends in school, and you have all these people who are showing you different variations of puberty, different forms of what it looks like to grow up, what it looks like to develop, what it looks like for your body to change, what it looks like for you to start to become not just a teenager, but an adult. And obviously the experience differs for different people, right? Different people, the experience differs. But if anyone had, as many of us do, had some awkward experiences with that process and it didn't quite go so smoothly, like, for instance, say you were a quote unquote late bloomer in a lot of cases, then you may have some memories of being around people who fucking were suddenly 7 foot tall, or fucking were like, hey yo dog, or hey yo fam, what's up, yeah bro, I was gonna say dog, but I didn't go to school in America. Hey yo bro, what's going on, bro? Yeah. You're like, hey guys, what's happening? And you're like, what the fuck, when am I gonna get there? And going through these phases where maybe you're getting facial hair, but your voice sounds so fucking high pitched, or like, maybe you are getting your voice deeper, but you haven't had your growth spurt yet and you feel out of place. But basically, throughout all of these awkward things, throughout all these times in which you felt out of place, you felt like you weren't doing the puberty thing properly, where you were looking at your face and you're like, where is the hair at? I'm still there. 21 years old, still nothing's happening, but we live on nonetheless. But visualizing, I hope you visualize those years in which you're going through that. And something about that is when you're in that, it can oftentimes feel like you're not really moving forward, or you're not doing it right? You literally don't really get a say in how puberty happens. It just fucking happens. But nonetheless, you can feel like you're doing it wrong. If you feel like you're too short, you're like, oh my God, people said I should get 8 hours of sleep or I'm not going to grow tall enough. And you're like, oh man, I get 4 hours of sleep and am I fucking up puberty? Am I doing puberty wrong? You know what I mean? Am I doing this automatic process that my body goes through like this 5-year gap? Am I doing it wrong? And you're like, what? You're trying to, if one area of puberty doesn't feel like it's going correctly, you may feel like, you're not doing it properly. Now, granted, I may have done this whole visualization exercise, and maybe all of you are like, nah, Simba, No, man, puberty was easy. I can't relate. So if that's the case, then thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. For anybody who can relate, um, you know what that feels like. And, on top of that, right? Like, for instance, let's say you were just going through that in an isolated environment. Let's say beforehand you had some general expectations for what puberty was going to be like, and you're just going through that. You would still feel some weird insecurities, and you'd feel like it's not going correctly. But then it's just, like I said, compounded by the fact that you may have your peers who have who look like they have a wife and kids waiting for them after school. 3 o'clock, the bell rings, they get in their fucking Toyota Camry and be like, "Hey wife, how's it going? How was work today? How are the kids?" And you're like, you're not in year 10, dog. What? Nah, bro, you have like a family and kids, which I'm not gonna lie, for some of them, I felt like that was the case, but that's what it feels like. Now you may be asking me, okay, Simba, thank you for throwing me back into those years of my life that I maybe tried to run away from as fast as possible and tried to completely suppress and repress the memories of. You may be like, Simba, what was the point of that? Did you just want to hurt me? No, there was a purpose. So now I want you to take that memory, right? Take that feeling, take that concept, take that idea, take that visualization, right? And now I want you to think about the act of self-improvement. And this can even relate to getting good at anything, right? I kind of focusing on the improvement of oneself today. But this can be about anything, right? Whether it's getting good at a skill like art, whether it's getting good at your job. I want you to think about the act of progressing, right? So let's use getting good at guitar, for instance, as an analogy. This might be a horrible, horrible example. But let's use getting good at guitar as an example, right? Let's say let's say you get to like 18 years old or whatever, and you're like, I want to play guitar. I want to play guitar all of a sudden. That's something that looks cool. I hear musicians playing guitar. I've heard some beautiful guitar songs. I want to be able to play my favorite songs and maybe even in the future, write my own music. So you say, I'm going to play guitar, right? Right? You probably, before you even pick up a guitar, you have some set expectations of what being good at guitar looks like. You've probably seen other really good guitarists. You probably know people who are younger than you who are really amazing at guitar. Going into that, your expectations are already warped. And that can set you up. And if you don't acknowledge that, that can fuck you up to begin with, right? And then let's say you do start playing guitar, and let's say you're not quite getting the hang of it. Now, if you mix that in with these expectations that you set about what getting good at guitar looks like, or if you haven't really, taken into consideration the amount of time other people have spent, you're like, oh no, am I destined to not be good at guitar? Am I doing getting good at guitar wrong? Yes. Am I doing getting better at guitar wrong? It's like, never picked up a guitar before. Am I supposed to be this bad? And you go in and you have all these weird expectations. And then as you go on, you start to kind of get better. But then you'll have days where you backslide, right? You may have weeks where you feel like, I'm on it. And then you just have like a straight week where your hands just suddenly forget how to touch strings. And you're like, what? I can't. Do I have arthritis all of a sudden? What's going on? And that can make you feel it's like, oh, okay, I've hit my point now. I'm not going to get good anymore. It's similar to being in puberty and you're like, maybe you're growing, and then you stop. And you're like, I'm stuck here now. And then maybe you've got some more growing to do. The only difference is in this situation, you actually have more control. You just have to keep pushing through and just keep going. And I think getting good at a skill has that kind of weird, awkward phase where you've kind of gotten past the initial stage of like, am I bad? And you start to feel like there's change happening. But it's so inconsistent at times that you cannot tell whether or not you're getting good at something. And I think oftentimes when people don't kind of set in their mind how long something might take to do, how much effort is required to do, it can make you feel like you're not making progress, right? And this is the unfortunate thing about getting good at something and how we often, just because of how social media works, how seeing stuff works, is, you're seeing all these people who are amazing at this stuff. And oftentimes you don't get to see the awkward middle years that people went through to get to where they were. You don't get to see when they were like, am I bad at guitar? You don't get to see when they were backsliding. You just get to see them performing well, right? I don't know what fucking Rembrandt's first drawing looks like, but I'm assuming that there was a point in which Rembrandt probably wasn't great at drawing, right? Like, it may be hard to believe, but I imagine Van Gogh probably couldn't draw a circle. Well, circles are really hard. Van Gogh probably couldn't draw a straight line at some point. But nobody ever gets to see that shit. You never get to see the amount of pages and pages of circles or straight lines or squares that Van Gogh had to draw, hoping that one day he would actually get good. You never get to see the years in which Van Gogh never thought he was improving, the years in which he thought he was getting worse, the years in which he was regressing. And I think bringing it back all the way home, this tangent had a point. It's coming back home. We're bringing it back home, boys. All right? A lot of people, I think, do this with self-improvement, and I think it's partially due to the way self-improvement is fed to you. Self-improvement is fed to you by the quote-unquote the masters in a certain area, right? You're reading how to improve your social skills from people who have mastered the art of social skills, right? From learning how to get fit from people who look like literal statues that somehow figured out how to fucking move, right? You're learning all these skills from people who are there, from all these people who have finished it, who are the masters in it, right? And oftentimes they can't, oh, whoops, sorry. Oftentimes, I don't know what the fuck just happened there with my body just giving up on me. The joys of getting older. Oftentimes, you don't really get to see, because why would they fucking document it? It doesn't really make sense. You don't get to see those years in which they don't, those years in which they were improving. And even if they have it, the best that you usually get is a before and after picture, right? Before and after pictures actually can sometimes be worse, right? Because sometimes you'll see a before and after picture of someone and you're like, oh, okay, there's some reference for where this person that is telling me how to get good and giving me my first plunge into what improving at this thing looks like is where they were before. And that can be really motivating, but it can also be the worst thing ever, because you're like, wait, how long did it take for them to get that good, right? Oh my God, dated before and after pictures? Bruh. Like, like when you see somebody who's completely out of shape, for instance, right? And they show this before and after picture. And it's like, this person was completely out of shape. And you're like, yo, this person was worse than I was before they started. And they're like, oh yeah. And they got good in 7 weeks. And you're like, weeks? What? And I feel like that can sometimes be worse because you're still not getting to see those middle stages. I feel like those middle stages are just like the worst part of improving, right? Like when you're working out and you've been doing your push-ups and your sit-ups and your everything for like weeks. You're just having this period where you're like, is there change happening? It is like the worst thing because you don't know whether or not you're improving. You just have to stick it out. And I think people need to take into consideration, that self-improvement comes those really, really fucking odd middle stages in which you don't know whether or not you're getting good. Or you don't know whether or not you're going to grow facial hair, you're going to grow taller, or whether or not your voice is going to get deeper, or whatever other thing. Sorry, I'm following from a male perspective. I don't, bro, biology class was so long ago. I don't know how the female body works. But same things from the female perspective. And, it's kind of in that regard, but for self-improvement, if any of that analogy makes sense. I hope anything I said today made even remote amount of sense. I'm listening back, I'm thinking back, I'm like, I hope that made sense, what I was trying to get at there. We need to finish this off with like a good message and a good point. Otherwise, I just rambled for 20 minutes and did no one any good. I guess the message is if you are in the process of doing something, if you are, in those awkward middle stages, I think you need to understand that everybody has to go through those. Everybody has to go through those really weird middle stages where you just don't know whether or not you're getting good. And you're just looking at all the people around you and you feel like you're never going to get there. And it sucks. It really sucks in those times because oftentimes that's when you're trying. You know, if you're not trying and you're not getting better, you can kind of wipe that away and be like, whatever the fuck. But when you are actually trying and it feels like you're not making any progress, I think it can really suck. And I think a lot of people don't take that into consideration before they start improving oneself, before they start on a skill, before they start on anything really. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. I don't remember what prompted that for me in my mind. I guess in a lot of things that I do right now, I would say that I am I feel like I'm on the tail end of those awkward middle stages. Like I feel like I've only just started to get good at my job. Kinda. And I've been doing this shit for like 3-4 years now. And I feel like I'm only kind of getting semi-competent now. And oftentimes it can feel like, I'm like, am I getting good? Are we improving? Oh, there's the producers telling us we need to quote wrap it up. But yeah, like it's kind of hard to tell sometimes, and I feel like, you know, when you're working on a lot of things that take a long time to work on, like self-improvement, like improving in a career, you really need to take consideration that there's gonna be that period of time in which you won't feel like you're growing. You just won't. You just won't feel like you're growing at all. I feel like one thing that's taught me that lesson really well was art. Art will teach you that very, very well, in my opinion. Just any skill. Just start improving a skill. That's my advice. If you're like really young, disclaimer, don't take advice from me at all, just in case I ruin your life. Here's my disclaimer, just in case I ruin somebody's life. Don't take any of my advice. I'm a 21-year-old on the internet with no credentials. If you listen to me, that's your own problem. But my advice, nonetheless, unsolicited. If you're really young, just for the sake of learning, I feel like everybody needs to learn what improving at something feels like. For the sake of learning what that feels like and getting to grips with those weird, early, awkward stages, just find something and just work on getting good at it. Because there is an art, I think I just spat, that was gross. There's an art to improving. There's an art to getting better. There's an art to growing. And that is a skill in itself. And I think it's important to learn what the process of growing and improving actually looks like. So just like if you're like 15, 16, and you're already dealing with the puberty shit right now, just like pick a skill or something. Pick a skill, pick something that you have even a remote interest in, and just kind of go hard in it, just for the sake of going hard, just for the sake of being able to learn how to get better at something. Because there will be something that you really want to get better at. And if you haven't really assessed what the process feels like, if you haven't assessed how long those awkward middle stages can go for, if you haven't assessed how arduous and how mentally draining those awkward middle years and stages can feel like, can really stop you from pursuing new things. So that's my advice to anybody who's young. Fuck it, even if you are old, same. But if you are young, I'd recommend that, especially just learn something. I don't fucking care what it is. You could learn to unicycle for all I care. If you want to become the best person at unicycling and that's the thing you're gonna use to learn, I don't care. You want to learn how to flip a pencil really good, just get good at something so you can learn the process of getting good at skills is. Because you often see, this is my last point, you see a lot of people who have multiple hobbies that they're good at. It's because they have mastered the art of learning things. That's like a skill. That's a skill. That's a whole nother episode, but that's a skill. So get good at something so you can start to get better at how to learn to get good at things, and you can assess how long those middle awkward years are without losing your goddamn mind. There we go. Thank you for watching this episode of Kinda Filtered. I was just checking what was going on with my monitors there. I hope you enjoyed. I hope anything I just said today made any sense. I feel like this was my least coherent episode ever, but we're in the awkward middle stages making YouTube videos. That was meta, baby. Was that meta? I think that was meta. So we're figuring it out. This is my awkward middle years, making YouTube videos. So maybe none of that made any sense, and you're like, Simba, this was not it, Chief. this was not the episode. Um, maybe. But yeah, let me know. Christ. Because anytime I do one of these, I'm like, oh, I don't know if that was quite it. And then people are like, oh, good episode. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I feel like the topic was great. I don't know if I delivered it with such grace. I'm not going to lie to you. But let me know nonetheless. And yeah, thank you to everyone for the continued support on the channel. Thank you to everyone who's subscribing, all that beautiful jazz. And if you want to sit down and hang out with me, have a big chit chat, yeah, if you've got some time every evening to spare at 8:30 p.m. BST, you should come join me at twitch.tv/SwizzyIV. I play video games, and as of late, we've been drawing because I used to do that. And by used to, I mean like a few months ago, and then I stopped because of life. So we've been doing that too. So that's sick, and that's a really fun time. You can chat with me. We can discuss the topics here, and you can tell me, not to my face, but live in the moment, and you can be like, Simba, worst episode yet. Or Simba, best episode yet. Either or, just tell me. Feedback is important. I need to know how to get better at this. I'm not good at this yet. I'm not going to lie to you. So I'm trying to figure out how to get better at this. Also, today I changed the placement of the microphone because audio is not my strong point, if you hadn't noticed. So now the microphone is here. That's right. Can you see that? It's right here. You can. It's right there. It's a technique that I learned on from a video. Apparently, I've been labbing people up from here for years. Apparently that's the worst place to put a lav microphone. So now it's here. I will see whether or not that's better. You let me know whether or not you think it's better. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to add. I don't know if you could even see the video playing on the monitor, but if you could, link to that is in the description. Oh yeah, also, one thing that I just wanted to point out, we've had this will be the third episode we've shot of Kinda Filtered in the same set. That's a good sign to me, boys and girls and everything else in between. That's a good ass sign, because before, every episode of Kinda Filtered had a new set. So it's been kind of consistent, which just helps for me because it just means it's less time trying to figure out how to light this shit. Is that light still on? Yeah, it is. It is still on. You want to see some? Do you want to break your mind? You know this lamp? There's no bulb in there. There's nothing. You ready? You ready for this? There's no bulb. I've just destroyed your whole universe. See you in the next one. Oh yeah, and subscribe. Do that and tell your friends. Goodbye.